has started. I never know exactly when it's going to pick up. There we go. Colonel Domchowski here again for part 3 of 5, or not counting the coupon section we just had. We're going to talk about debt management. And again, I will post this in here because if you're interested in this topic and you're needing some help, this book actually is pretty darn good, and we talk about a lot of the same things. But if you're someone who really physically wants to have something in their possession to kind of work through, to read, it's a pretty good book that I've read. I would say there's really no original thought left in personal finance because we're just all repeating everything that we've learned and heard. There's really nothing new, but his presentation is pretty good, and also he has a big social media presence and a special on Netflix. I haven't watched it yet. I will be watching it. I have to read books to get some experience hours for my accreditation. Wasn't a bad book. Very good explanations of debt management and some other topics as well. He uses personal examples as well as data to kind of show how things can turn bad quickly. And we're going to talk about that. But we're going to talk about debt management. Let me get to my slides here. And can someone give me an okay that you can see my slides? Over.
We can see your slides, sir.
All right, thanks, appreciate it. Again, I'm working off one screen, so if anyone has any questions along the way, please do ask them. Please come off mic. If you don't want to come off mic, please put them in the chat, and I'll toggle between the screens as time allows to answer your questions. Because the more questions, the better when it comes to this one, because this is something that part 1 was basic savings, part 2 was taxes. Now we have a little more money in our paycheck. And now what do we do with it? We don't want to get in trouble. If we do get in trouble, how do we get out of trouble? The funny thing is, though, about the book that I let me see who that is. The book that I referenced there, he says a refund is great. I disagree with him heartily on refunds. But you know, we're always going to have disagreements in the personal finance world and why it does not work. But I am pro not getting a refund, getting the money in your check because you're going to use it properly. I know you will. Debt management. Here we go. Warning, we've seen this before. I'm not going to make you rich. That's not the point. The point really is to focus on financial literacy. That is the wealth that you're trying to gain and hopefully will gain. And I ask you to pay it forward as best you can to those who need you. All right. Ben Franklin is the man lately with all quotes. He was yesterday with taxes, but rather go to bed supperless than rise in debts. Debt was always a worry of our founding fathers. A lot of them were in debt, surprisingly. You know, James Madison, for example, if you've ever been to Montpelier down in my area here, Spotsylvania in Orange County, you know, he died in debt. And George Washington, I believe, was in debt when he died. Thomas Jefferson basically had to sell off everything. Not good, but we want to be better than our founding fathers when it comes to debt. So this is what we're going to cover. I'm going to, just because there's a lot of stuff to go through, I'm going to move on. I always like to put it in here. I wish we had a money tree. Unfortunately, the world we live in today guarantees you'll be in debt. If you're on this call and you're a multimillionaire, that's awesome. You're probably not in debt, but you're probably one of the minority out there. The average person in the military, in the government service, even out in the world, is going to be in some form of debt. But when it comes to debt, there is good debt, bad debt, acceptable debt, unacceptable debt. And if you're in the bad, unacceptable, we need to work to get you out of there. But if you're on the other side, the good debt, acceptable debt, then that's the world we live in, because we don't make trillions of dollars to buy things. But debt happens, as mentioned. Budget. Debts happen because we fail in our budget. When I refer to debt, it's more of the bad debt side. Mortgage, we hear the term mortgage, that is more or less a positive term because we all probably are paying on some home or a car loan or student loans or things like that. That is not what we really refer to as debt. Debt is more the credit card debt, the stuff that you really can't afford that you bought, that kind of stuff. But come to budget goes back to part 1. As long as you are planning, you're living within your budget, that can help you address debt and get out of debt. And I have examples to show how you can easily kind of work your way to get out of debt if you are in that situation. But this is just a quick thing to talk about budgeting. And and how, once you're kind of squared that you're in a good place, making sure your budget addresses your lifestyle and you're living within your income so that debt does not happen. And that's the bad debt. When we talk about debt happens and bad debt, there actually is a mathematical formula for this. It's called the debt to income ratio. This is something that all your creditors, when I talk about creditors, we're talking about banks, we're talking about credit cards, we're talking about bank cards, meaning like bank cards and store cards and car loans. They're going to look at your debt to income ratio, and that's what decides your credit worthiness. So all those things, your car loans, student loans, your home loans, everything, what you're going to do is you add up all your monthly debt obligations. And this is all going to be on your credit report. And we'll talk about that if you don't know what that is. You're talking about all your kind of debt, and then you're going to divide by your gross income, which is your before taxes. So if your base pay is $10,000 a month, you make $120,000 gross. We're not talking about BAH or BAS. They do not become part of the equation. And then when you do the math, if you're under 36%, you're healthy and you're good credit worthiness. If you're in those ratios, 36 to 43, acceptable. You might not get the best rate, but you're going to be pretty good. Above 43, you're high risk, and above 50, you're probably going to be in some trouble. So do some math. This is always good to kind of figure out what you have. And if you're not familiar with your numbers of what your debt is, we'll talk about credit reports and where they actually show up so that you know where those numbers are. Your gross pay, you should know what your gross pay is. So that's one thing that you do know. Again, it's before taxes, and we'll talk about where that debt shows up. All right, I think you don't want to see that. Well, all right, there we go. We're going to talk about major types of credits and loans. Cash loans, those are your bank or your credit union loans, the mortgages, the car loans, all that kind of stuff. Cash loans, but I do want to be very careful of those payday loans or short-term loans. I know they're notoriously around military installations. Hey, check cashing, payday loans, get your money so much days faster, we'll cash it here. They charge tons of money for you to get your money early. Basically, those payday loans they're giving you your money early, but at a high interest rate. So it's basically predatory lending. Stay away from those. I know sometimes you're in a situation that you have to do it. I understand. I saw one commercial back in the day. If you read the fine print when they go through sort of fast and small print, I think it was a 20 to 25% interest rate on those. And I've actually saw one that was, I think it was a joke. I think it was 100% interest rate. So basically, you're borrowing $100. They want $100 back kind of scenario. Be very careful of those things. They prey on young enlisted troops and young officers and young people in general. And then you have your retail credit cards. Oh, those are just dangerous. Every time you check out a Home Depot, would you like to apply for your Home Depot card or any of those stores? Most of the time it's a hard no. That's would be my recommendation, is a hard no. It may seem like a good deal, but it can be very harmful because you forget about it. You keep on racking up the debt, like your JCPenney cards back in the day, your Sears cards, you just rack them up, and sometimes you forget to pay them, and boom, they're not good. And there's your bank credit cards that we're most familiar with, your credit cards, your MasterCard, Visa, Discover, American Express, etc. I do have a word of warning because, again, we travel a lot in the military. We have opportunities to travel overseas. Be careful of foreign transaction fees. If you didn't know and you just happen to get sent over to Ramstein for a TDY, for example, and this was actually a prime example. This happened to me. I was sent over to Ramstein, and I had my American Express card. It was a blue cash card, and I was over there, swiping it because I'm their TDY, and then I got my monthly statement. I'm like, what is this foreign transaction fee? They were charging me to convert the Deutschmark or the euro. The euro. That wasn't that old. That was a long time ago. The euro, to convert it from the euro to the American dollar to post on my credit card bill, and they charged me a foreign transaction fee. Our credit cards, our government travel cards have this. I don't know if they still have it, but those are reimbursable if they do have them. Be very careful of those things, especially if you're traveling on your own dime or you're using your personal credit card. There's a lot of credit cards out there that are free that offered 0 foreign transaction fees. I highly encourage you to all look at your credit card, especially if you're going overseas soon, to make sure your card does not charge a foreign transaction fee. Because honestly, I swiped my credit card a lot when I was overseas, and that would rack up to a lot of money. All right, I'm going to toggle here to make sure there's any questions. All right. The difference. Bad debt, good debt. I'm actually going to read these. Debt.org is a great website you can go ahead and look at. I looked at it and had a lot of good information. This is where I took this thing from. But good debt is what increases your net worth and or allows you to generate value. Good debt allows you to manage your finances more effectively, to leverage your wealth, to buy things you need, and to handle unforeseen emergencies. Bad debt is basically everything that's not, is which does not increase wealth or not used to purchase goods or services that have no lasting value. I know those are really, I'm going to fine tune those into my terms: acceptable, borderline, and unacceptable. Acceptable good debt: mortgages that you can afford, business loans that you can afford. Student loans are in red, and we'll talk about that. This is just my opinion that I've seen, also from being a father of 3 kids, all going to college. But only what you can afford. A lot of good online calculators out there that allow you to put your income in there, put your debt in there. They'll do your debt to income ratio for you. They'll allow you to figure out based on your salary growth, what you might be able to afford, like HomeWise. In the NCR, I know it's super difficult to buy a house. It's just crazy. I got lucky where I bought my house. I bought it at the right time, right? I closed the month we went into shutdown for COVID, and I was freaking out because I just put down all this money and I thought my house is going to lose value, but who thought it was going to go the other way? It's really crazy. But you should only borrow what you can afford. Borderline debt: car loans, business loans. I say business loans because if your business if you're leveraging a lot to go into a risky business, a startup, I just do your best. Do your homework and make sure, because we've heard of those things that people go ahead, take out their business loans, end up losing their house because their business failed. Or sometimes they succeed and they do amazing things. That is up to you for how much risk tolerance you have when it comes to debt. Student loans is in red as well, outside of your means. And then I'm going to come back to that. Unacceptable bad debt is anything outside of your means. The homes here in the NCR are atrocious. The rentals are atrocious. Hopefully you can all end up affording a home that you can afford. And the BAH hopefully has caught up with the rental prices and the home prices. When I first arrived here in 2019, I was paying out of pocket $600 for my rental, but it quickly readjusted so that I was able to break even at least with my rental. And then I ended up purchasing a home, and then I was good. But buying a home is always cheaper than renting. You can probably see that in your local area if you're renting versus buying. The rates are not so good now versus when they were in 19, 20, 21. I locked in at 2.5% for a mortgage. That's ridiculous. You don't see that anymore. When the Fed plays with the rates, the interest rates, that affects the mortgages. So just be very careful. I'm not saying go buy a crappy house in a crappy location. You need to balance what your income is now, what your income is growing to later, ability to resell that home if you're moving, if you don't plan on staying in the area long term. There's a lot of thought that goes into if you should buy a home or should rent. If you want to discuss this in detail, please contact me, and I'm happy to pros and cons, walk you through the process, the mindset. I'm happy to do that. This hour doesn't allow me to kind of do all that, but I'm happy to help you all. And the book that I put in there as well does talk about it versus the rent versus buy scenario. There's lots of things to do about mortgages and homeownership and hidden costs and all that kind of stuff. But really what I want to do here is focus as a parent right now on student loans. And I don't want to offend anyone by any means. But we as parents in this generation need to make sure our next generation, is better than us. So far, if you read the generations of the news about the generation, is they're expected to not make as much money as we did. So far, every generation has earned more than their parents. The new generation, which my kids are a part of, is not expected to earn more than our generation. So we need to kind of figure this out. They're not going to make as much money. Student loans, be careful in what your kids major in. Good debt, on average, a college educated person will earn more than a person with a high school diploma. That's fact. But make sure they're also doing a degree that's going to pay off. I always made sure my kids looked at their major, did a growth potential. And I'm not the only one who did this. I learned from a general who was out. I was an aide de camp for a general. His kids, two of them have PhDs, two are engineers working for Google. I asked him, how did you do this? And he said, we mentored our children along to make sure they chose a career path that would bring them wealth, bring them value, so they can earn more than us, so they can have a good life. I did that with my kids as well. So I'm just saying, make sure they pick a degree that does have job growth. If they decide to pick a degree that is in the borderline, make sure they go to a cheaper college. So I'm not going to say, example, they go to Harvard for basket weaving, that kind of scenario. Just based on experience, we find that state colleges, at least my part of New York and Vermont, really I'll say New York, state colleges offer a better teacher preparation program than the private universities. So if you go to a private university, you're going to pay more, double, triple for the same price tag for salary wise when you become a teacher. Prime example, I'm from New York. I attended a state college for 2 years before I enlisted. My wife is a teacher. She graduated from a state college in New York. At the time, it was $10,000 a year to go. So she graduated, she became a teacher. I think her starting salary was $19,000 as a teacher when she started. If she decided to go to Lemoyne College, for example, which is a private college in Syracuse, New York, which I had a friend who attended and became a teacher, she came out of college. I think Lemoyne was probably $25,000 to $30,000 a year when she came out of college. So right there, $40,000 potential debt versus $120,000 for the same $19,000 paycheck. So what I'm saying is, all degrees are good to a point. All degrees have some growth. Is it negative or positive? Just be there for your children to provide advice. They may not listen to you, but be there to provide advice. And hopefully they can afford a college they're attending. With the 9/11 GI Bill, that opens a plethora of opportunities for them. But just be careful with you yourself and your children, if you plan on having them or have them now, is that they can get into some trouble with student loans, especially if they go to a college they can't afford, because based upon what their career path is, they're not ever going to pay it back. So just go ahead and be the parent, be the advisor. And if you want me to talk to your kids, I'm happy to as well. Just let me know. But just come back to what you can afford. And there are tons of colleges out there. And if you can't afford something, we're going to talk about the cash basis here in a second. But I'm going to throw some ugly numbers at you just to show you how bad this can be. The average American holds $11,000 in credit card debt as early as 2026. Total credit card debt right now is $1.39 trillion of credit card debt. This is the average American household. I will tell you, through good planning and good preparation, I hold no credit card debt. So because I hold no, that is an inflated, that number is actually going to grow. So the relative person, the average person, is really more than 11.5. Demographics, in case you want to know by generation. My generation is Generation X, carries the highest balance of $9,600. Millennials, okay, 69, and just goes there. The silent generation, I hope someone over 80 plus has paid down their debt, but you just never know. Debt is a problem in our society, and let's just talk about how we can address it. And how much does debt really cost you? Let me toggle, see if you have any questions here real quick. Nothing. I just want to give you some examples to show the true cost of debt, because really, I know you're excited sometimes to go on vacation. I know sometimes you want to take your kids to Disney World or Disneyland or Universal Studios or somewhere. What I'm trying to say here is that you need to budget for life. If you decide to go the credit card route, it's going to potentially derail your financial goals. That's why we focus so much on the budget and making sure that you're living within your means. If you plan on going on vacation, save for it. I'm not cheap. I'm frugal. I'm conscious in my spending. Some people will call me cheap. I'm not. I buy things what I like. I would say I'm generous with my money, but I take advantage of coupons and deals and all that things. And I tell my wife, we will save for vacation. The first time we went to Disney World as a family, we saved for 5 years. I was a GS-12 technician. My wife was a stay-at-home mom. GS-12 technician, and I think I was a captain at the time. I really wasn't making that much money in Vermont, especially in Vermont, high cost of area before it did all the readjustments. So we saved for it. We had 3 young kids, and we finally went. It was a great, great thing. But the best thing is I paid it off in full. It was all put on the credit card, and I paid it off in full. We saved for it because we were conscious in our spending and our budget. I know not everyone can get to that point, but if you're focused, remember time, consistency, and growth if you've attended basic savings. If not, I encourage you to relook at that one. Every plan can be attained via plan of operations. If you know your time and you're consistent with your savings, your money will grow. So let's go do some examples. And we will use Disney World. You take your family of 5. I would like to say family of 5 because I know the world is built on a family of 4, and I take offense every time I see those Disney commercials and say, for a family of 4, it's only this much. I'm like, I have 5. So you take your family of 5 to Disney World for a cost of $10,000, and I may be doing it cheap, but I'm just doing $10,000, and you put it all in your credit card. And this is where it's going to be we're going to do some chat, come offline, take your guesses on how long kind of scenario. We have 3 scenarios. We have a number 1 scenario is a $200 consistent payment. Your credit card is paying 18.9% interest, meaning they're charging you 18.9% a year for you borrowing basically against the credit card, right? You use the credit card, they're going to charge you. Scenario number 2, $300, consistent payment. And number 3 is that lovely term, minimum balance. You pay the minimum. And we're going to say the minimum is 4% of your current outstanding balance, and it starts at $400. So what's going to happen is, just to explain minimum balance, is as your debt goes down, so as you start paying on your debt, the 4% is only going to be out on the outstanding balance. For example, say of your first payment of $400, $100 goes to principal, meaning pays down the $10,000. $300 goes to interest. So now your outstanding balance is $9,900. So now that's 4% of 99. So just giving you an example of how minimums work. Says anyone guess 1, 2, and 3? 1, how much is it going to cost you, and how long? Let's go there. We have a question here. Let me read it first. Yeah. I will answer that question, the VA loans, and then have you all think and put your answers in there. I've done some analysis on that. VA loans where VA loans really are good is the no down payment option. Especially if you're in your high cost area, the standard down payment on a home is 20%. That's just the standard they expect. If you don't pay 20%, you're going to pay something called private mortgage insurance, which is basically you're paying a monthly payment to just take out a loan because you didn't have enough money to put a down payment. The VA loan allows you to do away with PMI and the 20% and put down as minimum 0. You can put down 0 if you wanted to. But what they do is they charge the funding fee, as you mentioned. The funding fee, in essence, is PMI, is your private mortgage insurance. But in essence, it's cheaper. Where VA comes into play is the second time is the funding fee gets more expensive. So I would say the first time you do a VA loan, it's really good, probably because you might be buying your first home. You can put 0 down. The funding fee is cheaper than it will be the next few times. The next VA loan will be more expensive because the VA funding fee will be more expensive. When I took my first one out, I found the rates to be very, very, very competitive, if not better than what conventional had. I put down, I think, 5%, and I had a reasonable funding fee. I used it again later after I paid it off because I believe at the time you could only have 1 outstanding VA loan at a time. I haven't checked recently if that's still the rule, but normally that is the rule. 1 VA loan at a time has to close out before you can get another one. The second VA loan, again, great rate, but the funding fee was more. I put down more on it. It's all based on the rate, really, when it comes down to it, and your down payment. If you can afford 20%, you might be able to get a better rate because you don't have to pay the PMI. And there's some good lenders out there that will work with you on the fees. So conventional does offer you a better route if you can afford it. But if NCR, how many people can afford 20% on a $500,000 home? That's your standard home here, right? So that's why VA loans will come into play, especially in the NCR area. But I do encourage you, I know I don't have a great answer for you, but it is still a good deal. But I would say conventional offers you more avenues to get it cheaper because you have the 20% to put down. And if you have any questions, I can follow up later with you if you want on the analysis itself. All right, does anyone have any guesses on these? If not, I'm just going to move on because I want to shock you guys. All right, number one, $200 consistent payment. How does 8 years and 4 months sound? Shocking. And the debt, basically, you have paid for that trip twice. Your debt, you have incurred $9,800 in interest fees for that $10,000 trip and took you 8 years and 4 months to pay it off. Was that trip really worth it? I hope you did. Got great pictures. Number two, look how that extra $100, look what it did. It, one, cut down the interest fee in half and cut your debt time off in half. That extra $100 made a huge difference. And now, outstanding balance. Oh, that's minimum. This is why I bring this up, because this is what gets everyone to credit card debt problems, is that minimum. I explained it to you. Remember how it's outstanding balance. Your debt has, little less interest payment, but it took you 13 years and 10 months to pay it off. 13 years and 10 months to pay off a trip that lasts you a week. Be careful of minimums. Very tricky. They get you. Some credit cards have different ways to calculate minimums, but never fall into the minimum trick. It will get you. All right. No questions here. So I want to talk about minimums for 1 second as well, because when you all get your credit card bills, they'll say, this is the minimum you have to pay. Credit card companies don't like people like me. I don't make them any money. In theory, I do make them money, because every time I swipe my credit card, they're charging the vendor, like Giant Supermarket, for example. Giant has to pay for the credit card. So Giant pays Visa a fee. So Visa's still making money. Giant's still making money. But overall, I'm not paying any interest. So they don't like people like me. Please don't fall into the minimum payment trap, because really that's going to get you into trouble. They want you to pay the minimum. They want you to collect 19% interest from you for the next 13 years. That's how they make all their money. Always pay more than the minimum. And that's a prime example of how I just showed here. Just $200 is probably normally a minimum credit payment for a $10,000. It could be. You could see that on your credit card. If you paid a consistent $200, there's your interest. But look, just that extra $100, cut it in half. Always, if you are in a situation that you're in trouble and you're just paying the minimum, do your best to pay as much as humanly possible in addition to that minimum. It will get you out of debt faster. Trust me. All right. I will talk more about this as well a little slides from now, but in case you didn't know, how much does debt really cost you? It will cost you your job. I've seen this personally. Your job, your security clearance, one of the things in there is, are you indebted to anyone? If you have large debts, this could impact your security clearance, because then you are potentially, you could be swayed. Could someone pay you for information? And that's that's the concern right now. Failure, inability to live with one's means, satisfy debts, meet obligations may indicate poor self-control, lack of judgment, or unwillingness to abide by the rules. It could come up in your when you re-up your clearance. I had an airman in Vermont who couldn't get a security clearance because he owed someone money. It was a personal debt. Those are sometimes the worst ones out there. Because he owed someone money, they put a hold on his security clearance. He never got it and washed out for drugs anyway. But be careful. I just want to say, be careful if you're in debt. We'll talk about how to get out of debt. We're talking about your credit report now. This is a vital piece of information about your credit report. If you didn't know, it's out there. You are all just numbers to people out there. Again, always goes back to PCARs, budget, pay. This is your responsibility. No one is watching out for you. You have to take control of your financial life. And your credit report is one way you can take control of your financial life. It's a compilation of data done by credit bureaus, and they give you a number. And this number defines who you are in the financial realm. Lenders use a mathematical formula, and they come up with a FICO score at Fair, Isaac and Company. It ranges between 300 and 850. There are some other ones out there that range. The range is a little different, but on standard, 300 to 850. Low is bad. This is not like a golf score. You want the higher the better. Higher the better. It's broken out like this. Payment history, 35%, outstanding debt 30, length of credit history 15, new 10%, and credit card mix and how many in use is 10%. So the big one is, do you pay your bills on time? Do you have any bankruptcies, tax liens? Payment history is very important. Make your payments on time. Even if you're in the world of the minimum balance, that's still considered a payment on time. It will impact you in another way, but it still counts as a payment on time if you make the minimum. Outstanding debt is where that will kind of catch up with you there. Length of credit history is actually very important. So when we all got that initial credit card in college, I never kept mine. I canceled it. I think it was a Discover card. In case you're wondering, Discover card may or may not disappear. Capital One bought Discover card. I just recently learned this in the last few months. Capital One went ahead and bought Discover card to get a larger network. So I'm not sure if Capital One's going to move to Discover or Discover will cease to exist. I don't know what's going to happen, but if you have your Discover card, you might have got something in the mail recently saying that Capital One has bought them, because I got some notification of it as well. The length of credit history is very important. I have a credit card that I've had open since I think I got it when I was a butter bar in like 2002. I still have it open. I don't use it, but it's actually good for my credit history because it shows I was able to maintain a credit card for X amount of time. Getting your credit pinged all the time is bad. There are what they call hard pings and soft pings. A hard ping on your credit is when like you apply for a mortgage or a car loan. That's a hard ping. Soft pings are things like if you use Credit Karma or use any one of these other ones to the left, which we'll talk about here in a second. They can soft ping your credit. It doesn't impact you. It's just checking things. So make sure too many hard pings, like new credit cards, are considered a hard ping. That will hurt your credit score. It will rebound. It's not going to hurt you forever. It rebounds after a few months. And then the mix, how much credit do you really have? How many open lines? Do you have 19 credit cards, 20 credit cards, whatever? That might be too much. They take all this, they compress it, and they give you a score. And Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion are the big three credit reporting agencies. You can go into each one of those. There's a pay service that you could actually do if you wanted to, but you can always go into those three things. And I'm going to talk about a few things after I think there's a question that popped in. What's a good number of credit cards to have? 1, 2, 3, too many? I've read 3 to 7 is probably okay. 3, I think, is probably more towards the lesser side. I always would tell my kids to have a Visa, MasterCard, and maybe an American Express or MasterCard. Always have Visa. Visa is, I think, the most well-traveled card out there. Sometimes American Express gets a little expensive. People don't like to take it, especially even though they're small business oriented. Some vendors don't like to take American Express because they charge lots of fees. 3 to 7 is the recommended number of credit cards. But personally, I would say under 5. Preferably 3. But there are some out there. I think right now I have 5, because in case you didn't know, active duty gives you benefits otherwise a normal civilian would not get. I'm not going to say do it, but you can if you want. There are some special credit cards out there, for example, the American Express Platinum or the Chase Reserve Sapphire, that have huge fees, like $895 per year for the American Express Platinum. But because you're active duty, they'll waive that fee. So I took advantage of those. I have those 2 extra ones, but when I retire, I need to convert them to a free card because I don't want to pay $900 a month $900 a year for a credit card. But 3 to 7, but I think 5 is probably under 5 is a good number. Those big 3 credit unions, credit reporting agencies, they do all have websites, and Credit Karma is not one of the big 3. Credit Karma is just one of those things that you can use on the outside to help you manage your credit and give you access to different things. Also, your credit cards. If you have like a Capital One, for example, credit card, they use CreditWise, that you can go ahead and look at your TransUnion. They have a deal with TransUnion that you can pull. You can see your credit report from TransUnion. Let me get the next slide before I'll talk about that in a second here. But credit. Oh, really? Okay. That's good to know. I don't want to run that risk. That's because it went up to $895. If you didn't know, Amex, $895 now. That's kind of ridiculous. But they do offer some good benefits. For like American Express Platinum does offer Walmart Plus for free. Plus, you get Paramount Plus for free from there. And if you get Walmart Plus, you get 10 cents off Walmart gas stations. There's some good deals out there, but just be careful. You shouldn't really be paying fees for your credit cards unless you know you're going to earn that money back. And we'll talk about that here in a second too. You have access to your credit report. By law, you're allowed to get access to it. A real no kidding, right from those big 3 credit reports. You can go through annualcreditreport.com. You can get a copy of your credit report, no kidding, from each one of the big 3. And the big 3 were Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. I even put the address. If you want to be old school, you want to mail it in, it still exists. I don't know, really. You could get a paper copy. You could send a request in, and I guess they'll send you a paper copy. Very important that you look at your credit report every year. If you have CreditWise for the Capital One, I think American Express, has one as well. These different credit cards do offer you these for free. Look at all your credit reports because it shows what's on and in your name. It will show you all your open accounts and all your closed accounts. Closed accounts, that's cool. You want to see old accounts closed. But are you aware of every credit card you have open? When I pulled my wife's, I went, you still have this JCPenney card open? She's like, I didn't know you had that anymore. She had a Target account from when she was in, I guess in college or early on in our marriage life. You might have all these open cards, which is good or could be bad or could be good, but more or less, you have them is the important thing. You need to be aware of what's open on your credit report because credit report and credit and Social Security fraud, super big right now. LifeLock, you've never heard of LifeLock? I started with LifeLock back in 2002 when I got an email from the military saying your data has been compromised. And then they offered me LifeLock for free. I joined and I have kind of a lock on my credit. Basically, if anyone tries to take out a mortgage or a loan with my name, LifeLock's going to ping me saying, is this you? Are you sure? And sometimes I have to do a workaround through LifeLock to open up my credit and allow it to happen. I'm not saying go out and rush and do that, but be aware of what's on your credit to make sure you're looking to see what's open so no one has taken a loan out in your name. Let me see if there's a question here. All right, good copy there. That's on and I'll have to read that one again there. But what I'm going to pose to you is a few things. Be alert of your credit. I use Credit Karma as well. I made sure my kids got into Credit Karma so they could do soft checks on their credit. I make sure they actually do all have most of them Capital One accounts because that is our bank. They have CreditWise. But what I do is because, and you might have read news reports about it lately that with what's ongoing with Iran, there are more potential cyber attacks that may happen. Something I did for my parents, my dad is 88, my mom's 83. They live with me. They're not taking out car loans. They're not getting home mortgages. What I did, and you can do this as well, each one of the big three, and I'm going to go back to it, each one of those big threes allows you to put a credit freeze or a credit watch on your account. If you've been compromised in one of these data leaks that the government is having tons of them all the time, you can go into those 3 different organizations and put a credit lock or credit watch on you. A credit watch is just, they'll kind of notify you when something is out there that looks suspicious, versus a credit lock is your credit is locked down. I did that for my parents. I opened up LifeLock for them so I could monitor their emails in the dark web. Also, I went into each one of the 3 credit reporting agencies and I locked down their credit. So no one can use their social, because elderly Social Security fraud is big out there with Social Security numbers and such, identity theft, identity fraud. I locked down their credit. I also locked down my wife's and my credit because I'm not going to be taking any loans out anytime soon. So I locked down my credit just because I want to make sure. I've gone to the extreme levels. Doesn't mean you have to do that. For my kids, I tell them probably not time for you to lock down your credit, but you need to watch to make sure if there's anything open on your credit, you're aware and what that is. I also make sure I enroll them all. My oldest 2 have LifeLock. My youngest has NordQuest. I'm seeing how they work with NordQuest. Something it's the company NordVPN. It's Nord. I have him doing Nord to try that one out. I'm not saying go rush out and get these type of things, but be aware that they do happen, especially if you've had something happen with your identity theft. They will insure you and protect you up to $1 million and to get your information right again, so that your credit is not messed up. Again, not saying you to go out and get one, but I'm just making you aware there are resources out there that will help you lock down your credit. Also, watch over your credit. Watch over your Social Security number, watch over your email address and passwords on the dark web to notify you something is happening. It does cost money. It is not free. But what is free, again, is credit watches and credit locks on those 3 reporting. And you can go right into their website, sign up. It's all free. But the moral of the story is no one's checking your credit except you. Goes back to PCARs. That's your responsibility. Pay is your responsibility to notify finance if something's wrong, and your credit is your responsibility. You need to watch it because no one else is. And if you find yourself in a hole, the first thing to do is stop digging, right? All right, rebuilding your credit and digging yourself out. I know this is what probably people have been waiting for. Manage your credit cards well. My recommendation is pay in full each time. Many people, Dave Ramsey, for example, even the Ramit Sethi, who I've put the book in there for, they'll say the same exact things. But what they say is if you can't pay your credit card in full every month, you should not be using them. Someone who pays their credit card off in full every month credit card companies hate them, as I said. They're making them work for themselves. So, getting all the points, getting all the benefits, all that kind of stuff. If you find yourself not able to pay it off and going into debt, you need to use what they call the cash basis. A lot of people talk about the envelope trick. If you've never heard of that before, I know Dave Ramsey uses this as well in his books, is you take your monthly budget out in cash, you put it in envelopes. You write what the envelope is. Is this entertainment, food, gas, etc.? This is not your mandatory expenses are already covered. So your mortgage, your utilities, your phone bill, all that other junk is already taken care of. This is discretionary money. Remember, there's mandatory spending and there's discretionary spending. Mandatory is your mandatory bills that you must pay to keep you in a location and in a car. Discretionary is entertainment, food, gas, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The envelope game. You put cash in the envelopes. Once the cash runs out, you're done for the month. So you better manage your food wisely. You might have to eat ramen for the last week, but that's how you stay out of debt. It's just not recommended by me, as I mentioned, recommended by a lot of people. It's a way that you can learn discipline on how to spend your money on what you truly need. You can borrow between the envelopes, but once the envelopes run dry, there's no more money. So you need to be very careful on how you manage your money. Goes back to basic savings training. Stay on budget. Check your credit reports. I think I've hit that enough. Pay bills on time, because that has a direct impact on your credit reports. Because the higher your credit score is, the better you are. And it's really, most people on average are probably, 500 to 700. I know it's a big wide range. The higher you are in a number, the better interest rates you'll get on your mortgage and on car loans. That will help you in the long term save money, because a home loan, you're paying tons and tons and tons of interest for the course of 30 years. Car loans, same over a course of 5 to 7 years, depending on how long you have it. Debt consolidation. If you find yourself in trouble, that you are just being overwhelmed by the monthly bills that you have and you're just being overrun, debt consolidation is an option for you. Source of National Foundation of Credit Counseling. Go out there. You can take a look. Next few slides are a lot of just narrative. But basically what debt consolidation is you're going to work with a reputable firm, and I'll give you a link that you can check them all out. What they'll do is they'll work with the credit card companies and other debtors and try to get all your loans into one payment. That one payment should be less than all the other payments combined. So what they're doing is consolidating your debt into one payment and reducing the interest rate, hopefully to a lower rate, one rate. You're not paying 5 rates anymore. You're paying one rate, one payment, and you should be able to get out of debt faster. I've had multiple success with people using this. I've done this for 23 years, personal finance stuff. Personal examples of people going to reputable debt consolidation and getting out of debt. It does work, but you have to change your behavior. And that's what all this says here. And I'll let you read that at your own will. Debt consolidation is a reactive approach to fixing your solution. If you don't change your behavior, you're going to find yourself right back in the hole that you just dug for yourself. You're coming out of that hole. Like, I can see the horizon. I'm there. If you don't change your habits, you're just going to sink right back. Stay on budget. Live within your means. Get acceptable debt that you can afford, and keep on going. And that's what all this, that's just information there. In case you didn't know, there is a special clause in law called the Service Members Civil Relief Act. It allows credit card companies to reduce your rate. It really basically stops them from jacking up your rate. This is really meant for more debt that you kind of carried into the military, not gained. But however, a lot of credit card companies don't see it that way. I'll give you a personal example. I'm not going to name names. I had a member come into my office within the last year, and we had a financial counseling session. They were in debt. They were in credit card debt. I asked them what their rate was. They gave me their rate. We talked it over. I'm like, that's pretty substantial. Got it. I said, have you called your bank, your credit card company, and asked them to reduce your rate? Have you asked them about the Service Members Civil Relief Act? She said, no, this is debt I incurred while I was in the military. I'm like, it doesn't hurt to ask the question, right? The worst they're going to say is no. And guess what happened? She called the credit card company. They reduced her rate to the 6%. And this is the best yet. They reimbursed her for all the interest charges they have charged her since she opened the account to comply with the Service Members Civil Relief Act. So she got money back from the credit card company to apply this law. The worst the credit card company is going to tell you is no. It doesn't hurt to ask the question. There's a link. You can go ahead and read more about this Service Members Civil Relief Act. If you're in that situation, call your company. Worst going to say is no. You can always also negotiate. What I found very interesting about the book, and again, I'm going to post this book again in the chat to make sure everyone can see it, because I know people who join late. I'm not saying it has to go look on page 342. I'm saying there's 342 pages in this book. He talks a lot about negotiations, how you can negotiate with banks, how you can negotiate with credit card companies. He actually has a YouTube channel that's all free. You can go out there and watch negotiations, how to negotiate your salary. Not so much for the military members on this call, negotiating your salary, but I actually found it so interesting that I sent it to my oldest who works up in Syracuse for a private company. I'm like, hey, this might be a great tactic for you to learn when you ask for your next raise, even gives you a script to follow. So things like that are really cool in that book. But you don't have to buy the book. You can just go to a YouTube channel. It's free. Just look up just type in the author name and YouTube channel, and it'll take you right there. You don't have to buy the book. But go ahead. Now talk about negotiate with your bank and credit card company. Back to consolidation agencies, you want to make sure you look for the BBB, Better Business Bureau rating. You want to make sure you're dealing with a reputable firm. So really, if you find yourself in problems with debt, there's a few ways you can approach this. You can actually go talk to the local accredited financial counselor on base. They're located in what we would call the Family Support Center. I'm not sure what they call it now, the Military Readiness Center over there on Andrews. Or if you happen to be an ADOS member, for example, and they don't allow you over there, I don't know why they wouldn't. You can also always reach out to your state. Every state should have an accredited financial counselor located within their state. I know some states only have one, and they have multiple bases. It doesn't always work, but they're probably located at your state headquarters. Talk to them. That's one of the specialties that they have, and this is what I'm attaining to get the certification. They're not about telling you what to invest in, like, oh, go invest in stock XYZ. That's not a real. Don't go do that. That's just an example. They're there to help you with your financial situation, like budgeting, getting out of debt, et cetera, et cetera. That's what they're kind of there for, to help you develop a whole person concept for you as a financial picture so that you can move on to financial success. They're on base. They're there to help. Also, reach out to me. I'm happy to help you as well. I'm never going to charge you. This is my fun. If you want to get more expensive, the certified financial planners are out there as well. They are experts. They are certified. I have taken they're mandated to take courses. They have to take these courses, and they're very long. I have taken them. They were lengthy. They were very in-depth. And then you got to take a national level test, which I'm not going to test because I don't feel like I want to be one of those, but I could. Who knows? I may take it later on. They go through a lot of rigor to become who they are. You can reach out to them. They're relatively expensive, but you could go that route as well. And they can tell you where to invest if you're looking for it. Or you can go to the credit counseling agencies. There is the link right there. That's through the Justice Department. They offer reputable through, I think you look for your zip code, you put it in there, and they'll tell you what ones are registered with the government. And you can then go research them, the Better Business Bureaus, and you can make sure they have a good rating and they can help you. It might sometimes, I believe they charge you a small fee, but I think they also work through the credit card companies, and that's how they make their money. So life is not free. Accredited financial counselors are free on base, but credit counseling agencies may charge you a small fee, but it's going to be worth it in the end to get that one payment, one interest rate to get you out of debt as fast as you can, and then you're going to change your behavior, and you're never going to go into debt again, right? That's the game plan. But end game, we always have an end game. The only real solution is living within your means and budgeting wisely. I already talked about the cash budget trick envelopes. It's about tracking your expenses, track, know what you're spending on, understanding what's on your credit report. I hope all of you, one big take from this briefing, if you have one big takeaway, is to go look at your credit report. You can go to annualcreditreport.com. I provided the link there. Go ahead. Or you can use the ones if you have a credit card that has that service, or you sign up for Credit Karma. They will give you a good look of what's open. That will help you, one, get a nice financial whole person picture of yourself, of what's open, what's closed, what's out there for debt, and what agencies and what loaning agencies are looking at you when you're going to go get a rate. Also, they'll provide you a credit score. Higher the better, remember, higher the better. It's like bowling, higher the better. Please do that. That is a big takeaway from this. Understand who you are as a number, because again, you're seen as a number to the credit people. Go see what's out there. Budget. Again, I still use Excel. That's just me. I'm old school, but I like it. It works for me. Use an app if you want to help you stay on budget, but they are expensive and they are an expense. I think Rocket Rocket is $8 a month or something like that. But make sure they're a tool to help you get to where you need to get, to make sure we're living within our means, we're budgeting properly, we're setting goals, time, consistency, and growth. We have a plan. We're saving for that plan. We're going to attain that plan, and we're going to live a long and hopefully healthy life with no money problems. Because in the government, we are kind of blessed to have a pension. So let's use all these tools that are being thrown at you to develop that whole person concept, to get your finances in order so that everything's aligned. So when you're ready to retire, whether active duty, DSG, FERS, you can move into retirement with no bills, ideally, if not low bills, maybe still paying your house, so that you can enjoy your well-earned retirement and do what you want to do before it's too late. Because you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. You might get struck down with a disease that now is going to change your life. That happens. Maybe now you can't do what you want to do. So just remember that end game, live within your means. Here is my contact information. There's my email down below. I just went ahead and created a new folder in the files, 0.contact info, because I know some people are having problems finding my information. So I put my information in there. If you need to contact me after retirement, I turn in my computer this Friday. I won't have access to my emails anymore. Send me an email, send me a text. Happy to answer any questions you have. But I'm going to go back to questions here. Everydollar.com for monthly budget, free version. Free. I love free. I love those commercials, free. There are so many cool. So everydollar.com, if it works for you, that's fantastic, because you know what? That means you are putting effort into your budget. That means you're going to have financial success because you care enough to do it. And as I said, in basic savings, how many people have a budget? Oh yeah. How many people actually have it written down, or is it something in a physical presence? That means you have a budget. That is fantastic. All right. So there's a tool everyone can take from there. And it looks like Chase Sapphire. Okay, it looks like Chase Sapphire, if you have that, starts charging once you're off orders. Because I know one of them, back to the credit card game, one of them actually asks for your orders periodically. I think that must be Chase then. So just be careful if you have those credit cards when you retire, because you don't want to get hit with a stiff fee. Making sure you make credit cards work for you, not the other way around. Have a good number, understand your credit report, and how it all works. And you can close accounts, but they do impact your credit. Short term, not long term. It's a whole game of what a credit score is made of. They're looking for how much credit you have out there, meaning how credit worthy you are. Closing accounts does hurt you a little bit because it drops the amount of credit you have available. Just be careful. You can leave them open, but as long as you're managing your credit reports and you know what's out there, for some reason, if you see a weird charge in a credit card you haven't used in 2 years, oh, bing, what is that? Does someone have the number? Is there credit card fraud? All that kind of stuff. If you're watching your credit reports, you're better off as a whole person to develop your financial future. So what I'm going to do, LifeLock, extremely helpful. It's great. So right there, prime example, LifeLock, when they're deployed, someone tried to open a new line of credit with their social, and LifeLock stopped it. Not saying LifeLock is the one to use, but there are things out there that can help you, and that saved your life, basically, financial life. So that's a great example of how it works. Beautiful stuff out there for you to help you protect yourself and then also protect your financial future. I'm going to stop recording here, and I'm going to stay on to see if anyone has any questions. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have once I can figure out how to press. There we go. And again, the recording will be out here, and I'm stop.